So I have a number of videos up online that talk about maps, map reading, general things like that. I just want to go over a few other things just to make sure that everyone's fully aware and things that you'll see again when it comes to test time. But just a few generic things. Like I said, they've been mentioned on other videos, but I just want to kind of point them out on the map here. So this map is a 7.5 minute USGS topo map. Topo meaning it has the contour lines that show us our three-dimensional picture in a two-dimensional piece of paper. I'll just kind of go over real quick again a few of the things about it. So when you look at the just map in general here, this one's been folded so it's a little wrinkly. You can kind of notice there's a lot of different images, colors, and shapes and things to it. So all these brown lines, these are our contour lines, if you're not familiar with and you'll notice kind of as you move around on them, let's take these for example, every 5 lines there is a number which marks the elevation. So here's 9,800 feet. And then there's another one here, has 10,000 feet. And here's one where we'll circle around eventually and find 10,200 feet, 10,400 feet, 10,600 feet. And it kind of keeps going. So we'd have 800, 11,000, 11,200. So these are our index lines that are basically just every 5th line is bold. So it makes it easier for us to count. So if I were going to look from here, I know we're at 9,600 feet. I can just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And there's 200 feet of elevation change between each index line. So 8 times 200, I'd be looking at 1,600 feet of elevation between these points here. Each of our contour lines, we can look down at the bottom of our map. You see down here it says contour interval 40 feet of elevation. So there'll be 40 feet of up or down between each one of these individual brown lines. So that's our contour interval. Kind of going back to what other videos have mentioned, the further apart they are, the flatter the terrain. If you think of it, if I'm traveling from here to here, and I look at my map scale, and I see what 1/2 mile is, a full mile. You can just imagine if I'm going from here to here, we're probably at about a 1/4 mile. No, it looks like about a 1/4 mile. So if I'm traveling a 1/4 mile and going up 40 feet, that's not a very steep incline. Whereas over here, if I travel the same distance, 1/4 mile, about here to here, I'm going up 1, 2, 3, 4 index lines, which each index line is 200 feet. So if I'm going up 4 of them, then I'm going up 800 feet in that same 1/4 mile. So that's kind of our easy way of just kind of interpreting what the contour lines and intervals mean. This one has lots. This is a newer map. You can kind of see down here on the corner. It has Black Pyramid Mountain, Montana, Wyoming, telling us which quadrant or quadrangle this is. And this was last field checked in 1996. So this is a relatively newer map. It's still, is that going to be about 25 years old since it's been updated, but geologically things don't change that much. Roads do, trails do, sometimes streams do, but not too often. But mostly it's the trails and the roads that change, but this is a fairly newer one. And we can see it has different boundary markers here. The indefinite boundary it tells us Black Pyramid Mountain. The elevation has trails and roads. So here's a well-maintained road. This is the road that goes up over Beartooth Pass. This is a dirt road or an unimproved gravel road. Here's this 2-track dotted line is our basically a 4-wheel drive road versus the single dotted line is just a hiking trail or a pack trail. These lines where they're really close together indicate cliffs. And then this blue is just streams. Dotted blue is an intermittent stream, so seasonal stream. Circles, blue circles that are filled in are obviously lakes or ponds. Blue circles that are just out, kind of a slim outline, and blue contour lines in there indicate permanent snowfield or glaciers. So there's lots of information on here for us to know. We have campgrounds, we have trailheads. You'll see in some places, I just saw one a moment ago that has a TH for trailhead. The Grinnell Lake Campground, the Limber Pine Campground, Parkside Campground, so that's what all these indications are here. So here's a little TH for trailhead, indicates a footbridge here as well, the little lines across the river there. So we got lots of good information on here. As you look at the rest of this down here, it'll tell us more information. So we have our contour intervals. This is based off of National Geodetic Vertical Datum from 1929. So you just want to make sure this corresponds to a GPS if you're using a GPS. And more of that information can be found down on this kind of southwest side. When we talk about maps, it's always good to use the cardinal directions on them. North, south, east, west. If I say up and somebody's sitting across from me, they might look over here. If I say right, I'm talking here, they might be looking here, but this is always east, this is always west. So using those to describe your directions on your map is going to be much more beneficial than not. Over here is where we're going to find out what our declination is. Declination being the difference between true north or North Pole and magnetic north, where your compass is going to point. So the two aren't the same. They are in some places they're the same, but for the US, that's pretty much the Mississippi River, kind of along that area is about the same. We are at easterly declination, off to the east. That can get confusing. Declination can get really confusing to some people, especially if you stop and think that if you're in an east declination, you're on the west side. If you're on a west declination, you're on the east side. It can get confusing as you're trying to convert things on your compass to your map and back and forth. But you want to make sure you get a good understanding of it. And the book does a good job of kind of talking about it, and some other videos talk about it. But just know that if we are in Wyoming, Montana, South Dakota, Colorado, anywhere around here that you might assist with, we're always in easterly declination, so which basically means true north is the star. Excuse me. MN is magnetic north, where my compass is going to point. GN is grid north, which is almost the same as basically 1 degree off of true north. For us, for what we're going to do in a moment, we're going to kind of work that as north. That's going to be close enough. But this number down here, 14 degrees, is telling us that for this location, Black Pyramid Mountain up by Red Lodge, is 14. The magnetic north is pointing 14 degrees to the east of true north. So I'll need to know that when I adjust my compass, that I put this down here. You kind of can do two things. You can know that it's 14 east, so I need to subtract, because magnetic north is going to point this direction. So I can subtract 14 degrees that way. And the more you're familiar with it, the easier it is just to remember that. But if you're having trouble remembering whether you add or subtract, you can just put your compass on here. And I like to say, if you get it lined up just right here, and put the little pin right at the bottom, and you need to have your direction of travel arrow following your magnetic, or your North Star there. You can just spin your dial, and hopefully you can see this. Underneath of here, my pencil's messing my compass up, but you can kind of see the magnetic north line on the map underneath that, and I'll line up my arrow in there. Which, if I do it right and have everything lined up just right, should still show up right at that minus 14 degrees. So you can do that a couple different ways. So a few things we want to know. So just for example, well, actually before I get to that, I just want to point out a couple other things. So on our map, to point out locations, we use two different systems for that. The latitude, longitude, which is just north, south, east, west lines. And then we use UTM. UTM, a Universal Transverse Marcator, it uses the metric system. It's easterly and northern points, which are, if you look at the corners of your map, you'll see this says 45 degrees 0 minutes and 109 degrees 30 minutes. So this little point at the corner of my map, I know that that's the location, the plotted latitude longitude location right here. If you move along the bottom, about a third of the way out, you'll see where it says 27 degrees 30 minutes. Or sorry, 27 minutes 30 seconds. Move a little further, okay, 25 minutes. Move a little further, and I have 109 degrees 22 minutes 30 seconds. So I'm basically changing as I go up here from 30 minutes, or I start at 22 minutes 30 seconds, go to 30 minutes, I move 7.5 minutes of distance. And these little marks here kind of give me that 2.5 minute distance between those. So they're basically our little reference points. These other numbers are our UTM numbers. So UTM numbers are usually pretty large, but you don't always see the entire number. The way that it's listed out, and the book again goes through how they generally do that, and generally tell you that information. But we'll say, let's check. If we look at this far corner of our map here, on the edge, I can see some numbers. So right here I see this says 4985000 meters north. This little blue hash mark there. So that's basically saying I'm at 4,985,000 meters north. Down here I'm at 626,000 meters east, so 626,000 meters east at that blue hash mark. As I move up here, you can see I'm basically moving 1,000 meters at a time. So 4,985,000 meters, 4,986,000, 4,987,000. But it doesn't give me this entire number, so I don't really need it. As I start trying to pinpoint a location, then I would be more concerned about that.